Check out Lane Surprise by Demi McComber from One Simple Act. A few months ago, I was in line at the supermarket. My cart was piled high, and I was anxious to be on my way. I was grateful that the young woman in front of me only had a partially filled cart. As I watched her carefully unload her groceries, I could see that she seemed anxious. As the checker finished ringing up the groceries, the young woman leaned across the checkout stand, whispered something to the checker, and left without her groceries. The checker piled the bags onto the cart and set it off to the side. I guessed the scenario. The young woman didn't have enough money to pay for her purchase. The clerk looked up at me and smiled. Thanks for waiting. She had to go on to the bank for more money. I looked at the mountain of groceries in my cart, remembering my scary days back in the early 80s when I first decided to be a writer. I felt that inner discomfort that I sometimes get when God nudges me to do something. I call these moments divine appointments. It wasn't by accident that I turned up behind this woman. How much were her groceries, I asked. The clerk looked up as if she hadn't understood me. How much was her bill, I asked. She pulled the tape from the bag and told me. Kindly add that amount to my bill. Why are you doing this, she asked. I explained that at one time I'd been in that young woman's situation. I remembered wondering how I'd feed my family. I told her how grateful I was for all that God had given me. I tried to explain that with gratitude comes the urge to share. Slowly, the clerk returned to ringing up my groceries. I want to know more about God, she said simply. That's when it hit me. This nudge from God wasn't about the young woman who left her groceries behind. God hadn't nudged me for her sake, but for the clerk's sake. For whatever reason, she needed to witness an act of generosity done in the Lord's name. I thought I was helping the young woman needing groceries, but the Lord had set his sight on the clerk. James E. Biles Sr. once said something in a sermon. I remember being so struck by his words that I wrote them down. We aren't only called to share the gospel, we are called to show the gospel.